online video for you today of the online work that I would like for you to complete for today's online class. So on Classroom here, you will find the assignment. And keep in mind that if it's a different semester, you might find it might look slightly different here in Classroom, but we're looking for planning discussion questions, the assignment. So this assignment is designed to help you think about your TWS lesson plan, and an area that students often struggle with is after the whole class has completed the reading, what do we talk about? What do you ask the students? And how do we use those discussion questions to ask the class, or for the class to do in small groups, or for the class to answer individually to prepare them for discussion? How do we design those discussion questions to build students toward understanding and to check comprehension, and then to build them towards deeper thought about the literature, like to build them towards theme? So a role of discussion in the classroom is actually to teach, to discuss in such a way that students learn and develop their ability to do some of these key skills and objectives that we want them to have. So one thing to notice is there's several links here. So some of these links are just helpful links to help you, but this here, after reading discussion, is the assignment. So this discussion planner has a reminder of some of the goals of discussion. So we're going to be checking for understanding, encouraging responses to literature and connection to literature, but also our discussion should lead students toward critical thinking and deeper understanding of literacy. So some of our questions are going to be directly related to our key objectives, like our objectives about mood or tone or theme or character. But some of them are just going to be sort of general, what happened and what did you think of what happened and what's this all about? What's the author telling us about humanity here? So before you move on in the assignment, please do click through some of these resources that are here, and these are the same things that are posted here, so the links are the same, and in fact there's a couple more on this one. So this one has, talking you through the levels of questions and has some examples as well for you. These are specifically about some higher order thinking types of questions, so you can think about whether these apply to your text or not, or the way in which they might apply to your text. And then these are some questions that I created that you have received in class as well, or will receive in class, helping to get to that deeper level of critical literacy types of questions. And then this guide to asking questions that's here, this is the audience is parents, but I think it's great for getting those questions that relate to our key standards. So if your standard is tone, you can think about that. And then down here too, like how does the tone impact the theme? How does the tone impact the conflict? So there's different types of questions here to get you thinking about some things you might want to ask your students as you go. So first, just sort of familiarize yourself with some of these resources and think about the types of questions we tend to ask. Then down here we have this chart. So the chart is divided into the levels of questioning. So, and this is rough because sometimes questions can be sort of a couple different levels. So this is not like the be-all end-all, but it's sort of a good way to think about progressing students toward deeper levels of thought. So level 1 questions are going to be right there questions where the answer is just in the text. These are often comprehension questions. You may also do some close reading here to have students begin to summarize and paraphrase. So as a part of discussion, you always want to pull forward a couple key points in the text, a couple key paragraphs or moments in the text, pull them up, read them again with students, and then, okay, what is the author saying here? What's the author's point about this? Or what is happening to the character? What's the character saying in this scene? And then teach students how to figure those types of things out. So there's some examples of questions here. On the right-hand side, you're going to come up with at least 2 questions about your text. So if you're doing speech in the Virginia Convention, you're going to use these example questions and use some of these resources up here to help you phrase some specific questions about your text. So this one might actually work. What are 3 reasons the author gives to support his position? So you might say something like in paragraph 2, what reason does Henry give for supporting rebellion right? Something like that, right? So, but you want these to be specific to moments in the text or sort of overall questions. Like this, what happens to the masked figure when the clock strikes midnight? Something similar to that. It could also be right there, like what are some examples of metaphors in the text? Those types of questions can be right there questions as well. So I would like for you to come up with 2 of your own and put them here. They're drafts for now. You don't have to necessarily use these. I just want you to start thinking about the types of questions that you would want to ask students. Same thing with level 2 and level 3. So level 2 questions are sort of text-based, but they require an interpretation. So I call them book plus brain because you do have to have the text. You have to go back to the text, but then you add a level of analysis, interpretation based on the text, right? So you're still sort of staying within the text here. So these can be author's craft questions, like what makes the metaphor powerful here, because it's still based on the metaphor that's in the text. So again, you might pull forward a specific passage. But they can also be like, why do you think this happened? And they can also be, what was your reaction? Because you want them to refer back to what the ending was and then give their response based on that ending. What makes the opening scene powerful? So you're going to go back to the scene and they're going to do some evaluative work to help interpret the power of that opening scene. So yes, focusing on a key passage, a key moment in the text, a key plot point, a key piece of the argument, and then asking students to analyze, interpret, evaluate, respond, or whatever. So again, a couple examples of those from your own brain first. Level 3 questions are those big idea types of questions. So they're not really text dependent. They're more based on student experience, but they are connected to themes or ideas within the text. So I call these ideas plus world connections. So is love at first sight real? So you've sort of taken a look at what the author says about it or suggests about it, and then students get to grapple with that idea and their own opinions of that idea. Or can you think of any examples of similar stories in the news today? So have you heard about any other countries rebelling, and do you think those are justified? Or, examples like that. Has anything like this ever happened to you? So it's still based on what happens in the text, but it's about the student's own life or real world issues. It goes beyond the text in this big global way. Sometimes we call these global questions, okay? So again, at least two examples of those types of questions you might want to ask about your text. And that is step 1 up here, okay? That was step 1. For step 2, I want you to know that if you just Google discussion questions for your text, you will find them. They exist everywhere, but they're not always good. A lot of times they are just basic comprehension questions and we need to move beyond them. A lot of times it's not actually what you are focusing your conversation on. So look around, but still be selective. So what I want you to do here is go to Google. We're just going to go Google, and you're going to Google basically discussion questions for, like whatever you're doing. Here's Frederick Douglass's narrative, which none of you have, but I'm going to click on at least 3 of these that I think might be good. Okay, so here we go. Woo! These are kind of deep. How does Douglass connect violence and power in his narrative? So if I were going to use this to talk about violence and authority, that might be really good. How does Douglass conceive of freedom? So these are definitely text-based because you have to use the text to come up with your answer, right? But if you're asking sort of like, what about you? What do you think of freedom? Then we would put that in number 3. And your questions that you ask in 1, 2, and 3 should be sort of building upon each other, all connected to each other. So I might take this one and add it to the chart now so that I have at least 2 from my own brain and at least 3 from pre-existing resources already. And you might want to use 2 different colors, maybe like put the ones from you in blue and the ones from somewhere else in red, and like label those so I can tell which ones you came up with, or just put the ones you came up with first, right? But when you take them, make sure you put them in the right, you want to make sure that you put them in the correct level, right? So that I can tell that you can see the differences between the levels. I also want you then to take the URL from where you found the discussion questions and please add it here so that I can see that you checked out 3 different resources and you were looking for different types of questions, different types of resources. So you're going to have 3 links here. You don't have to necessarily pull one question from here, one from here, and one from here. I just want to see that you looked around for 3. So when you are finished, you're going to have at least 5 questions total in each level. More is better. And again, you don't have to commit to actually using these in your lesson plan. This is sort of just exploratory practice writing and finding good questions that are going to lead to good discussions and deeper level thinking, while also allowing students to process what they read and work on those comprehension skills. This is your online work for today. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I can't wait to see what you come up with.